And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt not see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Simple. And friends, have you ever questioned yourself and asked how the Israelites made it from Israel to Africa? Not by ship. The Roman Empire also used its massive navy to carry slaves to all corners of the empire. And that is exactly how we can see this verse being fulfilled. How we can see this verse being fulfilled. How we can see this verse being fulfilled. Being fulfilled. Being fulfilled. Fulfilled. How we can see this verse being fulfilled. The Hertz Chumash states that at the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans, both Titus and Hadrian consigned multitudes of Jews into slavery, and Egypt received a large portion of those slaves. The Romans had a fleet in the Mediterranean, and this was an easier and safer way of transporting prisoners than by land across the desert. Christian theology, and it may surprise you that I even agree on the origin of the vast majority of Caucasian Jews. I also believe, as do many historians, that they're descendants of the Khazars. Fine. It teaches that the kingdom of Khazar converted to Judaism, which is really not a problem. Why? Because Judaism has always held that a convert is on a higher level than a born Jew.
So the white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And you know,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
Have you heard of the Kuzalim?
Yeah, that's us. That's me actually.
Okay, so what is your? This is a question that comes from outside of Israel. What is your opinion about the theory that Ashkenazim came from Kuzalim?
It seems relevant. It's quite obvious that white Jewish people, Ashkenazim from Europe, are not genetically, as much as I can tell, I'm not an expert, but they don't look the same like Arab Jews, people that came from Arab countries, and Ethiopians. I don't think there's a lot of, there may be some genetic relations, but there's a lot of genetic differences. And any theory that says that we're not genetically come from the same ancestors makes sense to me.
The Jews are converts. They're pagans who converted to Judaism. They do not, their bloodlines do not go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And not only that, but Dr. Elhike, who is Jewish, who is a real fighter there, he says there's no doubt about it. It's science. So what happens? What all the Christians do? I want to say this. Henry Kissinger knew of this study. He knows of this. I think well,
no, it's really chic to hate Israel, and I see them building it up, Antichrist stuff. Like, I mean, he claims to be and then kills them. I mean, this is crazy.
Right? The elite.
That's what I'm saying. It's more sophisticated.
The elite have latched on to Israel as a tactic, as a strategy.
Like I saw America's plunging in the polls. They have us do the dirty work, then they destroy us.
Absolutely. Look, the Rothschilds and the others are Sabbatean Jews. They worship Satan. They don't worship the Bible. They have a serpent. They don't worship the Bible. They have a serpent. They don't worship the Bible. Worship the Bible. Worship the Bible.
Torah is truth. The first 5 books of Moses. Toss out all the apocryphal writings, including the New Testament, because God's plan is eternal. It has not changed. Toss out all the apocryphal writings, including the New Testament. Toss out all the apocryphal writings, including the New Testament. Toss out all the apocryphal writings. Toss out all.
Message to all believers in Christ. Your Bible is incomplete if you do not have this apocrypha.
It was included in the King James Bible back in the 1600s, but they had to take it out. There are 14 books in the Apocrypha, from Ezra to Maccabees. It was removed by the Puritans in approximately 17th century. They decided to remove it for being non-canonical. The Apocrypha were part of the earliest original codexes, such as Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and Alexandrius. So most of us jump from Malachi and go straight into Matthew, and we just completely bypass almost 500 years of vital history of the Israelite legacy. I recommend you guys to purchase this book ASAP. It's $10 or less. You guys familiar with Alexander the Great? It speaks about this in 1st Maccabees, and also how the children of Israel were Hellenized. Check out part 2.
Agree on the origin of the vast majority of Caucasian Jews. I also believe, as do many historians, that they're descendants of the Khazars. Fine.
The question is, how can you prove you're from the tribe of Judah? How do you prove that?
How can you prove you're from the tribe of...
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. Give me Jeremiah chapter 14 and verse 2. And let's see if you match this. Let's see if you match this.
The book of Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 2. Judah mourneth.
Judah mourneth. You're from the tribe of Judah.
Wait. Chapter 14, what verse?
Chapter 14 and verse 2. Come on.
Judah mourneth.
Come on.
And the gates thereof languish.
And the gates thereof languish. Meaning what? The gates are the leadership. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about any gates. It's talking about the actual leadership. They're known as the gates. They're languishing. Read on.
They are black.
They are what?
Black.
They are black. Come on.
Unto the ground.
Black like the ground. My friend, where do you fit in here? Where do you fit in here? You don't. Because your people are not the Israelites.
The only people that fit what's in this book of who it says that the true house of Israel is, the lost tribes of Israel. They're lost. You know, they say they're scattered. We don't know who they are. I know who they are. It's
Who are
clear.
they?
It's you guys. It's
What do you mean by you guys?
the folks that were sent through the transatlantic slave trade. The folks that are still in the lands of their captivity. Israel is in the lands of their captivity. There is no creation of the so-called Jewish state of Israel in 1948. That does not fit prophecy. There's people over there that call themselves Jews. They call their own selves Ashkenazi. If you go look at Genesis chapter 10, 1 through 5, it tells you Ashkenaz is descended from Japheth, Noah's son Japheth, not Shem. That means he's a Gentile. I'm a Gentile. You know, we're Gentiles. And I mean, like, I wasn't brainwashed. I got the Bible before they do the brainwashing of the programming and try to make you think Egypt is white, which is ridiculous because it's Africa. So, you know, all that's Africa.
You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the biblical Israelites, according to the curses of...
Ever wonder why the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans have a higher rate of heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and other health problems versus the other nation of people on the earth? It is because they are the chosen people of the Most High, the Israelites, but they are following the Babylonian customs of America. You see, Israelites are sinning when they eat abominations such as pork, crab, shrimp, lobster, fish with no scales like catfish, and other abominations as it is written in Leviticus. The other nations can eat those things because their bloodline ancestors did not make a covenant with the Most High God of the Holy Bible, but the Israelites' ancestors did. So that is why the Israelites are suffering from the curses of Deuteronomy till this very day. The Christian church will have you believe that the law is done away with, and it is okay to eat abominations and celebrate pagan holidays like Christmas. But truth be told, this is the crafty counsel mentioned in Psalm chapter 83 verses 3 through 5. This lie is designed to keep the children of Israel in sin, so the wicked can continue to rule. But I will have you know that once all of the elect of Israel awakes and return to the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, game over. You see, the people on this earth are not waiting for Jesus to come back. No, the Most High and his Son are waiting on the Israelites to remember who they are. Holla.
Agree on the origin of the vast majority of Caucasian Jews. I also believe, as do many historians, that they're descendants of the Khazars. Fine. It teaches that the kingdom of Khazar converted to Judaism, which is really not a problem. Why? Because Judaism has always held that a convert is on a higher level than a born Jew. Friends,
Am I in need of light? Will I burn just 'cause I'm white? Are the heathen thou shalt smite? I thought I was safe inside the crowd. Even if I lead them right, I know I'm safe through faith in Christ. God, am I in need of light? Think about the peace I've hated. That means if you look like me, you'll make it. God so loved the world that whoever except for you must. If you believe on Jesus Christ, will I be like unless you are in need of light? Am I in need of light? Might be heard of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. Except the Edomites. Am I in need of light? Will I burn just 'cause I'm white? Am I the heathen I shall smite? I thought I was safe inside the Christ.
I have repeatedly offered $1,000 to anyone who can prove to me from the Bible alone that I am bound to keep Sunday holy. There is no such law in the Bible. It is a law of the Holy Catholic Church alone. The Bible says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy." The Catholic Church says, "No, by my divine power I abolish the Sabbath day and command you to keep holy the first day of the week." And lo, the entire civilized world bows down in reverent obedience to the command of the Holy Catholic Church. T. N. Wright, CSSR, in a lecture at Hartford, Kansas, February 18, 1884. The Catholic Church for over 1,000 years before the existence of a Protestant, by virtue of her divine mission, changed the day from Saturday to Sunday. The Catholic Mirror, September 23, 1893. Question: which is the Sabbath day? Answer: Saturday is the Sabbath day. Question: why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Answer: we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church in the Council of Laodicea, AD 336, transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. Peter Geierman, The Convert's Catechism of Catholic Doctrine, 2nd edition, 1910, page 50. Question: have you any other way of proving that the Church has power to institute festivals of precept? Answer: had she not such power, she could not have done that in which all modern religionists agree with her. She could not have substituted the observance of Sunday, the first day of the week, for the observance of Saturday, the seventh day, a change for which there is no scriptural authority. Stephen Keenan, A Doctrinal Catechism, page 174. There is but one church on the face of the earth which has the power, or claims power, to make laws binding on the conscience, binding before God, binding under penalty of hellfire. For instance, the institution of Sunday. What right has any other church to keep this day? You answer by virtue of the third commandment. The papacy changed the fourth commandment and called it the third, which says, "Remember that thou keep holy the Sabbath day." But Sunday is not the Sabbath. Any schoolboy knows that. Sunday is the first day of the week. I have repeatedly offered $1,000 to anyone who will prove by the Bible alone that Sunday is the day we are bound to keep, and no one has called for the money. It was the Holy Catholic Church that changed the day of rest from Saturday, the seventh day, to Sunday, the first day of the week. T. Enright, CSSR, in a lecture delivered in 1893.
Thank you, Bishop.
Dear brothers and sisters, excuse me because I speak in Italian, but I am not speaking English. But I will speak no Italian, no English, but carefully. È una lingua più semplice e più autentica. E questa lingua del cuore ha un linguaggio e una grammatica speciale. La grammatica semplice, due regole. Ama Dio soprattutto e ama l'altro perché è il tuo fratello e la tua sorella. E con queste due cose andiamo avanti. Io sono qui con mio fratello, mio vescovo fratello Tony Palmer. Siamo amici da anni. E lui mi ha detto del vostro convegno, del vostro raduno. E con piacere vi invio un saluto gioioso e nostalgico. Gioioso perché a me dà gioia che voi siete riuniti per lodare Gesù Cristo, l'unico Signore, per pregare al Padre e ricevere lo Spirito. E questo dà gioia perché si vede che il Signore lavora in tutto il mondo. È nostalgico perché, ma succede come nei quartieri fra noi, no? Nei quartieri ci sono famiglie che si vogliono e famiglie che non si vogliono, famiglie che si uniscono e famiglie che si separano. E noi siamo un po', mi permetto la parola, separati. Separati perché i peccati ci hanno separati, i nostri peccati. I malintesi nella storia, ma una lunga strada di peccato comunitario. Ma chi ha la colpa? Tutti abbiamo la colpa, tutti siamo peccatori, soltanto uno è giusto, il Signore. Io ho la nostalgia che questa separazione finisca e ci dia la comunione. Io ho nostalgia di quell'abbraccio del quale parla la Sacra Scrittura, quando i fratelli di Giuseppe, affamati, sono andati a Egitto per comprare, per poter mangiare. Ma andavano a comprare, avevano i soldi, ma non potevano mangiare i soldi. E lì hanno trovato qualcosa più del pasto, hanno trovato il fratello. Tutti noi abbiamo dei soldi, i soldi della cultura, i soldi della nostra storia, di tante ricchezze culturali, anche religiose, tradizioni diverse. Ma dobbiamo trovarci come fratelli e dobbiamo piangere insieme, come ha fatto Giuseppe, quel pianto che unisce, il pianto dell'amore. Io vi parlo come fratello, e vi parlo così semplicemente, con gioia e nostalgia. Facciamo crescere la nostalgia, perché questo ci spingerà a trovarci, a abbracciarci e a lodare Gesù Cristo come unico Signore della storia. Vi ringrazio tanto per sentirmi. Vi ringrazio tanto per lasciarmi parlare la lingua del cuore. E vi chiedo anche un favore, di pregare per me, perché ho bisogno delle vostre preghiere. Io prego per voi, lo farò, ma io ho bisogno delle vostre preghiere e pregare al Signore perché ci unisca tutti. E avanti, siamo fratelli, ci diamo spiritualmente questo abbraccio e lasciamo che il Signore finisca l'opera che Lui ha incominciato. Perché questo è un miracolo, il miracolo dell'unità è incominciato. E dice uno scrittore italiano, il Manzoni, famoso, dice questa frase in un romanzo, un uomo semplice del popolo dice questa frase: non ho trovato mai che il Signore abbia incominciato un miracolo senza finirlo bene. Lui finirà bene questo miracolo dell'unità. Vi chiedo di benedirmi e io vi benedico, di fratello a fratello. Un abbraccio. Grazie.
Oleman gelema handelege, bo fredino un kindashe, stelbero como blavadero. Crema andalo como po, mare clanglo, boble e kemplino, mare vale campara. La del grupo meno un teleaskepe.
Young lady over here. What do you do with Romans 9:13 that says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I not disliked, not his sins disliked, but hated. He hated Esau, God hates. And to you, you have no room to talk about respect. Young lady over here.
Why do you keep using this Jesus?
This is patterned after an image that was created by Warner Selman, 1940 I believe it was. He was asked to create this image so that they could make small wallet-sized reproductions of it to hand out to the servicemen. The image was so widely distributed and still is today. Be the traditional representation that when people look at it they think, well, this is what Christ looks like. It says that Satan masquerades as an angel of light. And when you look that up in the original Greek, it's a Greek word that means to disguise. So it says Satan is disguised as an angel of light and his ministers are disguised as ministers of justice. And the scripture warns about this deception that's going to come through the Christian religion. This represents the son of perdition because it's really antichrist or imitation. As from the Greek, the word anti can mean instead of or
No, the Klan ain't contributing to the problem. You can just sit back and let the blacks do their own job. I mean, let them keep killing each other in record numbers. We ain't got to, the Klan ain't got to go out and kill blacks no more. We just drop off some liquor in their town and some guns, and they do it themselves. If it was my option every weekend, I would go up to Chicago with a big truck full of whiskey and crack, marijuana, and a ton of guns and bullets and tell them, have at it, and just drop it off right in the middle of town. And then go home.
The claim is that every book of the New Testament was written in Greek, which is insane because all the books of the Bible were written by Hebrews. All the books of the Bible were written by Hebrews, including the New Testament. So it just doesn't pass the smell test that all of the authors were Hebrew and yet all of the originals were in Greek. But that is the claim. So we're looking at the New Testament, the Bible, through the Greek filter of another language, culture, and thought.
Roman Jews was to essentially steal the history of the real Messianic movement.
So it's going to take on Greek elements, and there's a lot of these. We'll get into them one by one, but it matters. And the reason we know is that it was not all written in Greek. The church fathers said so. There are 75 historical attestations that the Gospels were originally written in Hebrew. At least Matthew was originally written in Hebrew.
So how come we don't learn about this in like seminary and places like this, or even just in just regular school
We are
history?
descendants of the Greek church. And the Greek church, Greek primacy of the Bible is an article of faith, right? So so you have to, not only are there 75 historical attestations from the fathers, the founding fathers of the what we call the Christian church now, but there was no one who said it did not exist. No one said it did not exist. And among those 75 attestations, there are more than 80 quotations directly from the Hebrew Gospels. All right, so we're supposed to say, well, the modern view of it, and remember, the modern view is 2,000 years old. Now it's about almost 2,000 years later. Now they're saying, well, there never really was a Hebrew Gospel. That was just mentioned by Papias, and everybody, kept saying the same thing instead of uprooting the error. But that's not true. It's not true that all of the early church fathers were either frauds or fools by mentioning the Hebrew Gospels. That's what you'd have to think to erase all of the early historical evidence that there was a Hebrew Gospel.
It's only to find. Now, first of all, I'm curious. So you knew there had to be more. Where did these other ones come from, if you can recall?
They originated from Cochin in India. They originated from Cochin in India, in the Kerala province in India. And this is where Thomas went in the first century and set up his ministry. Now, he would have taken, all the apostles would have taken the Hebrew Gospels with them. That was their word. There was no Greek Gospel when they had gone to all corners of the earth, really carrying the Hebrew Gospels with them. But we have a historical attestation that Bartholomew, pretty soon after that, the Bartholomew in the Bible, went to Cochin, India, went to Thomas's ministry and carried a copy of the Hebrew Gospels with him.
Now, this is not just legend. How do we know this?
This is historical attestation from the writings of the early church.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, we also have went to India and brought a copy of it back to Alexandria. A copy of Hebrew Gospels back to Alexandria, where Origen used it in writing his famous hexapla, which was the comparison of the extant Hebrew versions of the Bible, including the New Testament, a comparison of them with the extant Greek versions of the Bible. Now, the Roman Church didn't like Origen very much, so all of his research, the hexapla, we have fragments of it, but it's pretty much disappeared. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but that tends to be the pattern.
They've written the book on the subject.
That's true. That's right. But let's look at the evidence of it. So, the most important question you might think is, what are these Hebrew Gospels? We now have the manuscripts. We have had the manuscripts. These are new manuscripts. Are they authentic?
Right. How do we know? So Nehemiah goes in there and realizes that there's copies of the Hebrew Gospel in there.
Yeah.
And so there has to be more. I mean,
over 3,000 Hebrew New Testament manuscripts. Repeat that. Over 3,000 Hebrew New Testament manuscripts. And of the complete New Testament, from Matthew to Revelation, total pages, total manuscripts is over 3,000. So that's half, or just over half, of what the Greek New Testament has, and we've discovered these within the last few years. So these need to be taken seriously. These aren't just a few pages that some people suggest, or a one copy from one hand. These are multiple copies from multiple scribes, totaling each page, of course, over 3,000.
Roman Jews was to essentially steal the history of the real Messianic movement.
Three things people
don't like about
Let me tell
Mashiach.
you three things that people are uncomfortable about the Messiah, especially Christians, those who have not come to the complete truth of the Torah and of the children of Israel in the Messianic way, the Netzarim. These are three things that they find uncomfortable about the truth of the Messiah. Firstly, they find it uncomfortable that the fact that his name's not Jesus and his name is Yehoshua, meaning Yah is salvation. Secondly, they don't like the fact that Yehoshua said you got to keep the commandments and the statutes and the laws. Okay, that's faith and works. They don't like that. And the third thing is, they always have a problem with his skin color. They don't like the fact that he's black. Okay, so these are three things that people struggle with, and they say, does it really matter? Yes, it does.
Read the Bible. Numbers and Deuteronomy.
Numbers 15:38. Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and they put upon the fringe of the borders a riband of blue. Deuteronomy 20:12. Thou shalt make thee fringes upon the forequarters of thy vesture wherewith thou coverest thyself.
What's real, and what ain't, I've been gone, now I'm here, now what's real, and what ain't, I've been good, can't complain, I got the spirit you're willing, I got the feeling you're feeling, I'm on my seat in this way back, focus on nothing but healing, I'm only one out of a million, trying to speak life to the realest, we had our back against the ropes, now it's about time that they feel this, we in the street with the dealers, we in the street with the killers, reasoning out of descriptions, 365 to the killers, your pastor comes in the building, he's telling lies and he's stealing, he said the law done away, but he said time to stay, I can
Hebrews used Yah in their names.
Hebrews used Yah in their names.
And wide, giving his town attention it does not want.
Rural America spoke up when they elected Trump. Rural America.
And by rural America, he means white America.
We're staring down the barrel of a gun here in white America. There's still 193 million white Americans. Yes, the vast majority of them are in their 60s and 70s, will be in the ground in the next 20 years, and therefore we have the possibility of becoming a minority in our own country. A possibility.
It sounds to me
of becoming a minority in our own
like
country.
you're afraid of being me. And being me,
this is my country,
is great. This is also my country.
You guys didn't win the culture war.
He invited us on his property.
3 Wilmington, North Carolina police officers have been fired after a routine audit of a patrol car camera uncovered what authorities describe as extremely racist comments toward African Americans. Here's CBS's Jeff Pegues.
An internal probe by the Wilmington Police Department reveals hate-filled conversations with 3 veteran officers. Officer Kevin Piner is heard telling Corporal Jesse Moore that the protests would soon lead to a civil war, and that he is ready. He goes on to tell Moore that he was going to buy a new assault rifle, and soon we are just going to go out and start slaughtering them expletive N-words. Piner says a civil war is needed to wipe them off the expletive map. That'll put them back about 4 or 5 generations. Later, during a phone call with Piner, Moore refers to a woman he arrested as the N-word and says she needed a bullet in her head right then. Donnie Williams is the department's new police chief. He fired the officers on his first day.
When you talk about killing people and generations of people, that is disturbing.
According to investigators, the officers blame their comments on the stress of today's climate in law enforcement. CBS News has reached out to the police union and the 3 officers for comment. So far, they haven't responded. Jeff Begay, CBS News, Washington.
Today, I wish you all to bear witness to this lesson. Let all who are under a yoke as slaves regard their own masters as worthy of all honor, so the name of God and the teachings may not be reviled. Those who have believed in masters must not be disrespectful on the ground that they are brothers. Rather, they must serve all the better. And those who benefit from their good service are believers and beloved. Teach and urge these things. No more masters! No more slaves! God, their own masters, is worthy of all honor. It's the word of God. God damn you! God damn you! What is the penalty? Disobeying the word of God. No! No! Damnation. And eternal fire.
Are the black people. If you read about the 12 tribes of Israel, scripture makes it clear that Benjamin was a black man, Oliver was a black man.
So Derek Chauvin got 22 and a half years in prison with eligibility for parole in 15. Let's meet some other people who got life in prison and what they did. This is Alan Russell. He was sentenced to life in prison for having 1.5 ounces of marijuana. And this is Paul Carter. He is serving life in prison without a chance for parole for possession of a trace amount of heroin that was so small it could not even be weighed. And this is Timothy Jackson. He's serving life without parole for shoplifting a $139 jacket. And this is Derek Chauvin. He got 22 and a half years for kneeling on George Floyd's neck until he died.
Oh shit! They shot him? Oh my fucking goodness!
They killed this boy!
Oh.
Harrison, Arkansas is the most racist town in the United States.
Have a little pride in your race, brother. White pride, worldwide.
I wouldn't say after dark, man.
Honestly, dude, you have balls of steel because you could get hospitalized by some guys that want to beat your ass.
I've had several old men come by here, look out the window and tell me, says, you better go tell that nigger to get out of here and shit.
About 10 minutes, I'm gonna be back. You better be fucking gone.
Okay, come back.
We matter too. You're a white man. Crazy.
You're a dumbass motherfucker. You dumb shit.
You racist motherfucker. Are you a Marxist?
Communist. Domestic terrorist.
Why don't you take it to Chicago or New York and hold it up where they're shooting each other? Explain to me why Coons life matters.
No, they don't. Do a real fucking job.
I'm Jesus.
Get your ass out of town. That shit don't make shit here.
Hey, all lives matter, not just black.
You're Caucasian.
You're white. You look like a white guy holding a black lives matter sign. What's the deal with that?
I'd be ashamed to be a white boy carrying that stupid sign.
You're white, aren't you? Oh, boy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hey, you saying something too?
Yes, sir.
I am good.
Because I'm tired of seeing this right here is the biggest hoax there ever was.
It's just the next thing to ask.
It is.
Yeah, black lives do matter, but what about ours, man?
Apparently, black people's lives matter more than us.
Apparently.
You know, the Irish have...
The nigger's gonna kill you too. Black lives don't matter what the fuck.
Fuck black lives. And I have black lives.
Hey, Mike. How's your day going? Walmart, they put out this statement.
I would ask you to leave. Exactly what I'm saying is exactly what they would ask me to do.
I got in Dallas. Real nigga beat the odds, staying free, my only challenge. Back in, boys, rain on all the stages. I've been through some shit, use the pain as motivation. Playing Richard Millie, bust the size, it's a stainless. If I was selling cars, these niggas spend their whole savings. Really stand on business, flood my kids up in ice. Never seen a jealous hearted nigga win in my life. Stood tall.
Decides that his gender identity is woman.
A woman has its own duty, and a man has its own duty, and a lady cannot do the duty of a man, and a man cannot do a duty of a woman.
Can a man become a woman?
No.
No?
No.
What about a transgender?
Okay?
Transgender?
No.
No?
It will look like if you want to become a lady but you're a man, you have something wrong in your mind. Something wrong in your family, something wrong in you.
What about if someone was non-binary?
Come again?
Non-binary? You know, like like someone is
you're not a woman, you're not a man.
Yeah, someone is neither. There's something else. Is that?
He's saying we have never seen things like those. For a man, he has a penis. For a woman, he has a vagina. So we know this is a lady, this is a man.
What if it's a woman with a penis?
Both?
If you're black, we cannot be friends. Go fucking die, you ugly ass black people. Black people are trash. They need to die. Like, I fucking hate black people. They're so annoying. Okay. So when the police were killing all those black people, I was so happy because I was like, fuck black people, go die, bitches.
Have a huge community in Africa that they know in tradition that they are Hebrews, that they are from child of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. They know it for sure. You have communities that are running services and prayers by the halakha, keeping Shabbat and eating kosher. They know their roots. Like, you can't argue with them. They're stronger than you. They will tell you who they are. They don't ask you even. And they have the Bible and it's all written over there, and they don't have no problems in life. Except of that we're not able to accept them, to recognize the godliness of the holy tribes that is treasured inside them, their souls. And you have the problem not recognizing your own brother and not understanding that there's a way to let him back in. Because we have today all the power to do that. We have all the sources, we have the land, we have everything we need. Except of the key to our hearts that is still missing.
Three things people don't like about Mashiach.
Let me tell you three things that people are uncomfortable about the Messiah, especially Christians, those who have not come to the complete truth of the Torah and of the children of Israel in the Messianic way, the Netzarim. These are three things that they find uncomfortable about the truth of the Messiah. Firstly, they find it uncomfortable that the fact that his name's not Jesus and his name is Yehoshua, meaning Yah is salvation. Secondly, they don't like the fact that Yehoshua said you got to keep the commandments and the statutes and the laws. Okay, that's faith and works. They don't like that. And the third thing is they always have a problem with his skin color. They don't like the fact that he's black. Okay, so these are three things that people struggle with, and they say, does it really matter? Yes, it does.
The claim is that every book of the New Testament was written in Greek, which is insane because all the books of the Bible were written by Hebrews. All the books of the Bible were written by Hebrews, including the New Testament. So it just doesn't pass the smell test that all of the authors were Hebrew and yet all of the originals were in Greek. But that is the claim. So we're looking at the New Testament, the Bible, through the Greek filter of another language, culture, and thought.
Roman Jews was to essentially steal the history of the real Messianic movement.
So it's going to take on Greek elements, and there's a lot of these. We'll get into them one by one, but it matters. And the reason we know is that it was not all written in Greek. The church fathers said so. There are 75 historical attestations that the Gospels were originally written in Hebrew. At least Matthew was originally written in Hebrew.
So how come we don't learn about this in like seminary and places like this, or even just in regular school
we are
history?
Descendants of the Greek church. And the Greek church, Greek primacy of the Bible is an article of faith, right? So so you have to, not only are there 75 historical attestations from the fathers, the founding fathers of the what we call the Christian church now, but there was no one who said it did not exist. No one said it did not exist. And among those 75 attestations, there are more than 80 quotations directly from the Hebrew Gospels. All right, so we're supposed to say, well, the modern view of it, and remember, the modern view is 2,000 years old. Now it's about almost 2,000 years later. Now they're saying, well, there never really was a Hebrew gospel. That was just mentioned by Papias, and everybody, kept saying the same thing instead of uprooting the error. But that's not true. It's not true that all of the early church fathers were either frauds or fools by mentioning the Hebrew gospels. That's what you'd have to think to erase all of the early historical evidence that there was a Hebrew gospel.
It's only to find. And now, first of all, I'm curious. So you knew there had to be more. Where did these other ones come from, if you can recall?
They originated from Cochin in India. They originated from Cochin in India, in the Kerala province in India. And this is where Thomas went in the first century and set up his ministry. Now, he would have taken, all the apostles would have taken the Hebrew Gospels with them. That was their word. There was no Greek gospel when they had gone to all corners of the earth, really, carrying the Hebrew Gospels with them. But we have a historical attestation that Bartholomew, pretty soon after that, the Bartholomew in the Bible, went to Cochin, India, went to Thomas's ministry and carried a copy of the Hebrew Gospels with him.
Now, this is not just legend. How do we know this?
This is historical attestation from the writings of the early church.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, we also have went to India and brought a copy of it back to Alexandria. A copy of Hebrew Gospels back to Alexandria, where Origen used it in writing his famous Hexapla, which was the comparison of the extant Hebrew versions of the Bible, including the New Testament, a comparison of them with the extant Greek versions of the Bible. Now, the Roman Church didn't like Origen very much, so all of his research, the Hexapla, we have fragments of it, but it's pretty much disappeared. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but that tends to be the pattern.
Clearly written the book on the subject.
That's
so,
true.
yes.
That's right. But let's look at the evidence of it. So, the most important question you might think is, what are these Hebrew Gospels? We now have the manuscripts. We have had the manuscripts. These are new manuscripts. Are they authentic?
Right. How do we know? And Nehemiah goes in there and realizes that there's copies of the Hebrew Gospel in there.
Yeah.
And so there has to be more. I mean,
over 3,000 Hebrew New Testament manuscripts. Repeat that. Over 3,000 Hebrew New Testament manuscripts. And of the complete New Testament, from Matthew to Revelation, total pages, total manuscripts is over 3,000. So that's half, or just over half, of what the Greek New Testament has, and we've discovered these within the last few years. So these need to be taken seriously. These aren't just a few pages that some people suggest, or a one copy from one hand. These are multiple copies from multiple scribes, totaling on each page, of course, over 3,000.
Roman Jews was to essentially steal the history of the real Messianic movement.
What's real, and what ain't, I've been gone, now I'm here, now what's real, and what ain't, I've been good, can't complain, I got the spiritual willing, I got the feeling you feeling, I'm on my seat in this way back, focus on nothing but healing, I'm only one out of million, trying to speak life to the realest, we had our back against the ropes, now it's about time that they feel this, we in the street with the dealers, we in the street with the killers, reasoning out of the scriptures, 365 to the killers. Your pastor comes in the building, he telling lies and he stealing. He said the law's on the way, but he said time to stay.
Read the Bible. Numbers and Deuteronomy.
Numbers 15:38. Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and they put upon the fringe of the borders a riband of blue. Deuteronomy 20:12. Thou shalt make thee fringes upon the forequarters of thy vesture wherewith thou coverest thyself.
Hebrews used Yah in their names.
Hebrews used Yah in their names.
What does the Messiah you ignorantly call Jesus look like?
What?
What country you from? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak Hebrew and what?
What?
Hebrew, Edomite, do you speak it?
Yes.
Then you know what I'm saying. Describe what Yahweh Shai Mashiach look like.
He's black.
Go on.
He's bald.
Does he look like Caesar Borgia?
No.
Then why you try to make him look like that clown, Brett? Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Brett. You tried to change him. Now, you know, he got dark skin with hair like wool, according to the scriptures.
The letter is the secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation.
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for.
Damn.
Hold on, let me
So we gonna tell the story.
We gonna tell the story. We ain't scared.
You know what I'm saying? What they gonna do?
They after us, not just playing.
Look, that black van.
So look. So he says, between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came to Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then, since technology and media weren't accessible to people like that, like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this was the meeting. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there. Right. Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip-hop.
Talk to him.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign the confidentiality agreement, preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. So now it's going to get to the good part because the meeting about to start.
Talk to him, Jake.
It says, quickly after the meeting began, hold on one second.
Get your popcorn, y'all.
Popcorn, get your pistol. No,
for real though.
Quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable in the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague, who opened up the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out about this publicly, or even those who attended the meeting.
Damn.
I asked him, why was he involved with something so corrupt? And he replied, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we can do. And, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested as we walked back into the house. I remember word for word the last thing he said. It's out of my hands now. Just remember you signed an agreement. He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
So this meeting, bro.
Now that's a lot for a meeting right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this person later on, he said, this person actually ended up leaving the music industry after this happened. A few years after this, he ended up leaving the music industry.
Okay.
And he'd say he just over the years he just felt guilty because he said as he sat back and he watched these plans come to a reality
over 2 decades.
He sat back and was like, wow, they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
They really pulled this off. He was like, they were told not to sign any more political rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their music.
No positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out.
So if you wonder where Brand Nubians went, where Pro Righteous Teachers went, where Public Enemy went, where KRS-One went, and all sorts of groups like that was talking, even Queen Latifah and Moni Love and those, what I'm saying? It's a back door.
Yeah, anything that was harmless, fun rap, anything that had a message in it had to go.
Yeah, that's why if you even notice though,
we talk about that all the time.
Even be brief with it, you know what I'm saying? Those charms that came out like maybe in 1988, 89, the African charms, those they lasted for about 2 years and they disappeared real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Now, after reading all this, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first emotion I felt was shocked because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this. You know what I'm saying? The second emotion I felt was anger. Anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it.
Mhm.
Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artists. Never. But they're going to go beyond the artists to get the artists to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Yeah.
So they making a killing.
A killing.
They're using the music business to promote their private prison business.
My man is right there talking that right. 1988, a man named Tom Beasley, man. That's the co-founder of the corrections for Corporation of America. That's the CCA. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my French. I'm reading this thing right there real quick. It's the CCA. So in 1988, he founded that, and this is in straight concert with the same thing. So it's like the music business. You do what you do on your side. And over here with the correction facilities, we're going to do on this side, because in 1970, there was 500 prisons. You know what I'm saying? Only 500 prisons in the United States. To this day, there's 1,700 prisons right now. That means big business. I'm talking about that done flippled over. You know what I'm saying? If flippled over is a word. Because they're making a lot of money off of these things per inmate. You know what I'm saying? So getting with the same thing of the music, it all went hand in hand, and we just partying at the same time.
So us as the artists is the tool they use.
Yeah.
The music is the bait.
Yep.
And the young consumers are the prey. It's a cold game.
Cold game, bro.
Cold
you know what I'm
game.
saying?
Then I felt sad. Sad because everything we seem to try to create, we always seem to give it away. We're always being tricked and deceived into believing that they have our best interests at hand, when clearly they never have, and they never will. They never will have our best interests at hand. It's blow after blow after blow after blow. Nick